Hello YouTube, Rudy here, and I'm going to do a review on my M16-14 Carson design Columbia River knife technology blade. This blade here is a heavy duty EDC knife, a tactical folder, or a folding camp knife. It could be used for any purpose your imagination can come up with. Obviously, you could cut food. I often use my knives to cut food. When I go to a restaurant, sometimes steak knives are crappy, and I just whip out my sharp folder and I enjoy my steak. This knife is made in Taiwan, but the specifications that it's made by are probably pretty thorough. It seems to be the trend that even though knives are made in Taiwan, the quality is not being affected in any negative way. It's got a strong handle, very strong handle. It's got a thick blade, and it's easy to sharpen. This particular model is no longer made by Columbia River Knife Technology, so they're getting harder to find. But if you look, you'll still find them online. The weight of this knife is 4.9 ounces. It's a little bit heavy for a folder. I don't mind the weight. I'm a big guy, and I find that even on a pair of shorts, the knife is not too much just to wear on a pair of flimsy exercise shorts. I used to do a lot of jogging, and I'd carry this knife with me because I lived in a really bad neighborhood, and I never had a problem carrying it with me as far as weight goes. The balance is at the index finger. It's really nicely balanced. It feels secure in the hand despite the smooth aluminum handles. When it's fully open, it's roughly 9 inches. The blade length itself is 3 7/8. The blade, I believe, is made out of Aus-8. I had to reshape the tip because around 4 years ago I dropped the tip down onto concrete. See, I guess you can tell it's been worked, but you really can't see too much. The blade is a modified Tonto point. I call it modified Tonto point because if you notice, it's also a drop point blade, almost like the Cold Steel Bowie design, which means this is a pretty good penetrator, having a Tonto point as well as the drop point combination. It's a thick, strong point, just like most Tontos. And this knife, I find, is a really good chopper. I often use my EDC blades for preparing food, and sometimes that gets on. Like, say my mom, for example, she goes, "Oh, man, you use that knife for everything. Don't use it for food." But I know when my knife is clean and when it's not clean. You'll find that a third of the blade has a serration on it. And the serrations, although they don't look good, it's because this blade is old. And I've sharpened them so many times. They work very well. This knife had a few nicks in it, over the years I've nicked it a few times, so I've had to reshape the blade. It used to have a lot more of a bow in it, like a typical Tonto, you know, come out and go in, you know, but over the years it's simply become relatively straight. Right here, which I believe is called, this part of the blade is called the kisaki, and then using Japanese terminology. But where the kisaki meets the rest of the blade, at this point, it's usually a secondary blade point. But I've had this blade so long that it's smoothened out, and it almost just has a plain belly. And I like that. It seems to resemble more of the traditional Tonto blade, and it helps for slicing. But although the secondary point of a American Tonto is really good at slicing too. I have no complaints about those. There's slight jimping where the thumb rests. You see here, jimping. It's not the greatest jimping, but it's an appreciable amount. There's also jimping on the thumb stud. This thumb stud here, which also serves as a guard, has jimping. It's a relatively thick blade when you compare this to something like the Sog Trident. Hold on, I'm going to get my Sog Trident here and see if I can show you the thickness comparison. Oh yeah. Compared to the Sog Trident, look at that. It almost looks twice as thick. It's not, but it's a lot thicker. Okay, and I'd also like to say that the blade itself is a chisel-shaped hollow grind blade. It's hollow ground, as you can see. Maybe you can't see, but yes, it is hollow ground. And it's hollow ground on this side as well. However, this side of the blade is flat near the edge. Whereas this side of the blade, you can see, has a prominent edge. Therefore, that's why I call it a chisel-shaped blade. I find these are relatively easy to sharpen. I like them. Okay. One complaint about this blade is, because I've had it so long, well, the blade shakes back and forth. Not left or sideways, left or right, but back and forth. See if I could show that to you. Well, I'm sure you can hear it. But see, it's imperceptible. You can barely make out the movement. And the reason for that is I abused it about 2 years ago. I intentionally smacked the spine against the blade. I smacked the spine against the table. It seems to have slightly twisted the liner lock just enough to put about a 1 millimeter space between the liner lock and the blade itself. Right in there. Right where the liner lock meets the bottom of the blade. See, it's a little blurry, but you can make the movement out. It's about a 1 millimeter space, whereas it shouldn't have had anything. So basically what it did is it imperceptibly curved the liner lock to create that space. And I regret doing it, but the knife is still pretty sturdy. If it wasn't for the intentional abuse, I believe the knife would be as solid as the day I bought it. It has zero sideways movement, as I mentioned. Okay, and now I want to discuss the handle. The handle close length is 5 1/3 of an inch. The handle is made out of aluminum. Has only one steel liner used for the liner lock. As you can see, there's a steel liner in there, but only on one side, and that's because that's where the liner lock is. No liner lock on that side, but there is on that side. The liner, I mean. After so many years, the liner has a lot of rust stains on it. You know, inside there, you can see perhaps that it is kind of dirty. But it's as strong as ever. I've gone swimming with this knife a lot, you know, in rivers, and I never even worried about it. I figure it's a very durable knife, and a slight amount of rust on the liner didn't compromise the strength in any way. It's got a Teflon bushing at the pivot point. You can't see it, but I removed this knife in all its parts, and I've noticed it. It's got the Carson flipper designed to help it flip open, and also serves as a finger guard in the open position. The finger guard flipper has jimping as well. I think I mentioned that. See, it opens up. There's a finger guard. Now it's a finger guard, but when it's in the closed position, it's used to flip the blade open. The Laws lock system to lock the liner lock is not automatic. If you notice, it's open. I have to lock it manually. But this knife is over 8 years old. I've had this knife maybe even 10 years. I don't think it's quite that old, but 8 or 10 years. So this is probably before they made the lock auto lock, and when it was simply just lock. The tip down carry for the clip has only a single position, meaning it can't be moved to anywhere else. It has to stay right where it is. The butt of the handle has a prominent curve to hold the fingers onto the blade, and it works very well. The aluminum handle is smooth, but my fingers have a way of finding themselves inside of the holes in the handle, and this makes for a more secure grip. And because it's so open, it's easy to clean. I can run this knife under soapy water and get everything out. Use a Q-tip to get the thin edges and a little piece of cloth. As far as aesthetics go, it's a no-nonsense, visually appealing knife. It's a utilitarian design, functional, made to be used, and it's not one of the, you might say it's not one of the more fondling knives, but I really enjoy it. I think it's a great knife. I noticed online right now you can find this knife for $55 at A.G. Russell. I paid $75 at the knife store in downtown Los Angeles. I hope you like the knife. I do. If you want to leave comments or videos, they'd be appreciated. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.